Brock Lesnar returns to Monday Night Raw last night, brawling with Cody Rhodes and possibly setting up a future showdown between the two at SummerSlam later on this summer. SmackDown does huge ratings on Fox last week, despite being a taped show from the UK. Shayna Baszler explains why she turned her back and attacked Ronda Rousey at Money in the Bank, and attacking her once again last night on Monday Night Raw. The Judgment Day could be in turmoil coming out of Money in the Bank. Trish Stratus reveals she suffered a facial injury in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. An update on the rumours suggesting that Charlotte Flair could have entered the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match this past weekend. Ricochet and Logan Paul are set to face off face-to-face next week on Raw. Maxine Dupree makes her in-ring debut last night on the Red Brand, and Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green are the new #1 contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about Monday Night Raw last night. And the Beast is back. The Beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar, has picked up where he left off regarding the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Brock Lesnar wasted little time making his presence known Monday night, but it was Cody Rhodes who got the last laugh for now. Seth Rollins, the World Heavyweight Champion, kicked off Raw in style, rattling off the winners from Saturday's Money in the Bank event, but interestingly was soon interrupted by the American Nightmare. As Rhodes began to ask Rollins what he wanted to talk about, Lesnar's music hit and the two clashed outside of the ring. By the time the two made their way into the ring, Rollins had made the wise decision to vacate it, and after a little back and forth, Rhodes dropped the Beast incarnate with a single Cody cutter before Lesnar made his way back up the ramp. Rhodes has a violent history with both men, of course, having beaten Rollins 3 consecutive times after returning to WWE at WrestleMania 38 last year, which makes interrupting the World Heavyweight Champion all the more intriguing. As for Lesnar, business is still far from settled, with each man holding one victory over the other. With SummerSlam 1 month away, all signs point to the rubber match taking place at Ford Field in Detroit. Now, it's been a while since we've seen Brock Lesnar, and according to a report from WRKD Wrestling, Brock's return was delayed purposely after the plans for Money in the Bank included other big names from the company making surprise returns. WRKD tweeted, quote, "Plans had changed before Money in the Bank, with McIntyre and Cena returning. The thought process was that Brock's return would be diminished after multiple other surprises in the evening." Of course, as mentioned, this then led to the chaotic opening taking place last night on Monday Night Raw, with Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes squaring off. So the question is, when are we going to get this official announcement that Brock versus Cody is going to be happening at SummerSlam? We'll have to wait and see, but it looks like the beginning of that storyline has indeed taken place last night on Monday Night Raw. What did you think of Rhodes and Brock Lesnar brawling? What did you think of Brock selling that big Cody cutter in the middle of the ring? And what do you think the final match will be at SummerSlam? Is it going to be this rumored gimmick match, or could they just have a standard single match in Ford Field? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Let's switch gears here and talk about SmackDown, the blue brand in WWE, and SmackDown continues to deliver big ratings and big viewership numbers on Fox. Friday night's edition of SmackDown averaged 2.51 million viewers on Fox, which is up 6.6% from the previous week. It's SmackDown's best viewership since June 2nd, and the third highest audience total for the show so far in 2023. This, of course, was SmackDown's go-home show for Money in the Bank. The episode actually was taped in London earlier on in the day before airing on Fox in its regular time slot. In addition to that, the show did air live in the UK on BT Sport, so certainly spoilers, especially nowadays, but spoilers were widely available and people could have been able, if they found creative ways, to watch the show on stream somewhere. But still, people tuned in their droves to watch the show on Fox in its usual time slot. The show also drew a 0.69 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, which is up 13.1% from the prior week too. That's also SmackDown's best rating since the June 2nd show, and ties the show's second highest rating of the year in the key demographic. As compared to the same week in 2022, SmackDown was up 17.2% in overall viewers and up 40.8% in the 18 to 49. It's the 23rd straight week that SmackDown has been up year over year in both categories. Certainly, again, SmackDown delivering big numbers, strong numbers on network television, particularly at a good time when it comes to negotiations over television rights with Fox and with other networks as well. So what are your thoughts on those ratings? Why do you think that is? Is that because of the success of the Bloodline? Is that because it was in the UK and people knew it was going to be a fantastic show? Is it because it was the show before Money in the Bank? What are your thoughts? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on that. Now, Shayna Baszler turning on Ronda Rousey was one of the more shocking moments to come out of Money in the Bank over the weekend. And on Raw, we certainly had an explanation, and actually quite interestingly, the way the crowd reacted to this one. Now, on Raw last night, Shayna Baszler told Ronda Rousey exactly why she turned on her at Money in the Bank. While Rousey came out to the ring first, it was Shayna Baszler who was actually portrayed as the babyface and would end up getting the better of the crowd reactions as she let Rousey have it. Baszler opened up by saying, quote, "I am pretty confident that I speak for everyone when I say we're sick of hearing you speak on the microphone," which of course did get a lot of cheers from the fans. Rousey claimed that Baszler owed her an apology, but Baszler turned that around and said the only apology she owes is one to everyone else for being the person who actually brought Rousey into the business. The back and forth didn't end at words though, as in the end, Baszler got the upper hand over Rousey, delivering a thunderous running knee before leaving the ring, clearly dismissing Ronda. Rousey, for her part, screamed at Shayna that this was not over. They are reportedly set for a match at SummerSlam, shortly after which Ronda Rousey is expected to leave the WWE. There was supposed to be a bigger build to Baszler's turn on Rousey instead of it being so sudden at Money in the Bank, but because of Rousey's injury issues earlier this year, them winning the Women's Tag Team Championships was delayed, and the turn had to be basically rushed so the match can happen at SummerSlam before Rousey leaves. There have been some rumours and a bit of scuttlebutt that maybe Rousey could be returning to the UFC now that Amanda Nunes has retired. We don't really know anything about that. If we hear any confirmation on that, of course, we'll let you know. But what did you make of Shayna Baszler's promo last night? And was she right? And is Shayna Baszler the babyface and Rousey the heel in this situation? Let's talk about the Judgment Day, because there's turmoil going on in one of WWE's biggest factions right now. On last night's edition of Raw, there continued to be dissension within the Judgment Day. Judgment Day initially came out to interrupt Seth Rollins and seemingly lay a trap for Damian Priest to effectively cash in his Money in the Bank contract after the faction softened up the champion with a match with Dirty Dominic Mysterio. We'll touch on that a bit later on. Throughout the night, however, they were without Finn Balor. The Rollins versus Dirty Dom match did end up with Priest interfering to cause a DQ and attacking Rollins, paving the way for a potential cash-in. While Dom encouraged Priest to cash in on the downed Rollins, instead it was Finn Balor who appeared out of nowhere to attack Rollins, which inadvertently knocked Priest off the apron and cost him the chance to cash in. Priest and Balor then began to have words, allowing Rollins the opportunity to not just escape, but also hit a nice pedigree on Dirty Dom for his troubles on his way up the ramp. Fans at home could hear the conversation going on within the Judgment Day to end the show, with Finn Balor accusing Priest of costing him his match at Money in the Bank, while Priest retorted that Finn shouldn't be making this all about himself, it's about the Judgment Day. Kevin Patrick on commentary gave the final call of the night to reiterate that the Judgment Day is in turmoil. With the history of the faction having proven they weren't being afraid to oust their leader in the past, could Damian Priest be primed to take over the Judgment Day in the near future? Now, I spoke about Dominic Mysterio there, and you might have noticed that, did you say Dirty Dom? Well, it appears Dominic Mysterio will be referred to as Dirty Dom going forward. On last night's Raw, Rhea Ripley referred to Mysterio by his new nickname while issuing a challenge to World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins on behalf of her Judgment Day stablemate. Quote, "Dirty Dom says he wants to fight Seth freaking Rollins tonight," Ripley told Rollins as Mysterio and Damian Priest looked on. Shortly thereafter, the Dirty Dom nickname appeared on the official graphic for the match, following which the announcers referred to Mysterio by his new moniker several times. Furthermore, Ripley currently sports the text Dirty Dom on her face, and did so even during the Mysterio versus Cody Rhodes match at last Saturday's Money in the Bank Premium Live event. Ultimately, as I mentioned, the match ended up in disqualification, but what did you think of the of the new nickname for Dominic Mysterio. Do you like Dirty Dom? Is this a Vince McMahon decision? What do you think about it? Let me know your thoughts about that. Now, it was a busy night for the Judgment Day as well, because for the second time, Rhea Ripley has successfully defended the WWE Women's World Championship against Natalya. On Monday night's episode of Raw, Ripley met Natalya in the ring in a much more competitive match than their match at Night of Champions. After the match, Ripley continued beating down Natalya before the Women's Tag Team Champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez ran out to make the save. The pair saving Natalya from Ripley could set up a new program between Ripley and either Morgan or Rodriguez. A few weeks ago on Raw, Rodriguez briefly confronted Ripley backstage before losing her Money in the Bank qualifying match to Trish Stratus. History is also in place with Ripley and Morgan, who were tag team partners before Ripley joined the Judgment Day. The match with Natalya marked Ripley's first defense of the Women's World Championship and televised match in general in over a month. Her last defense was her match against Natalya at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. Now, let's continue to talk about the women's division on Raw, because Trish Stratus is back in a face mask once again. Remember, famously, she was in sort of the mid-2000s when she had a broken nose. And on last night's Raw, one very infamous accessory made a comeback as a top WWE star, Trish Stratus, revealed a facial injury from Money in the Bank. Making an entrance on last night's Raw alongside Zoe Stark to answer the call from Becky Lynch to come out and finish their feud once and for all, Trish Stratus debuted a new accessory. Rocking the infamous broken nose face guard, Trish Stratus said numerous times that Becky Lynch broke her face. With the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match marking Trish Stratus' first ever ladder match, she unfortunately sustained an apparent injury, although it's not confirmed whether it's legitimate or just part of a storyline. Although we did notice during the match, if you go back and watch it, she did have a big black mark and a raised bump on her nose, indicating somewhat of a broken nose maybe. Stratus told Becky Lynch that Zoe Stark would avenge her injury, but not tonight, instead next week on Raw, because Baltimore didn't deserve to see the match and Trish had a medical appointment to get to, despite it being like 9:30 in the United States at the time. Next week on Raw, Becky Lynch will take on Zoe Stark. Lynch and Stratus are reportedly planned for a match at SummerSlam, so hopefully Trish's injury isn't too serious and she'll be ready in time to face Becky Lynch at the biggest event of the summer. Let's continue talking about the women's division as well. Talk about Charlotte Flair. Now, Charlotte Flair, of course, was not placed in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, rumors had circulated ahead of Money in the Bank that Charlotte would be inserted into the Money in the Bank ladder match, replacing Zelina Vega. When asked about that ahead of the show, Fightful Sean Ross Sapp said he hadn't heard of such of a plan to take place. Fightful followed up and were told there wasn't any serious consideration to do that, and Charlotte Flair's creative has been planned for quite a while in a very specific sense. Specifically, Fightful Select are reporting that they were told that Charlotte Flair's creative is to be involved with Bianca Belair and Asuka, and that was planned and even set even before she returned. Fightful have also been told that the idea was to re-establish Asuka and have her involved with two top talent chasing for her title, instead of the other way around, to add more intrigue and suspense to her reign. So reportedly, Charlotte Flair's creative is to build up Asuka, and she wasn't ever being considered to be entered into the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, let's talk about what's going to be happening next week on Raw, beginning with Logan Paul and Ricochet. Following their in-ring and out-ring clash at the men's Money in the Bank ladder match this past weekend, Ricochet has officially laid out the challenge to Logan Paul to meet him face-to-face in the ring next Monday on Raw, so that he may lay out a larger challenge. Presumably, Ricochet will look to challenge Paul for the upcoming SummerSlam Premium Live event. The animosity between the YouTube star and Ricochet began when the two first met actually in the ring earlier this year in the Royal Rumble match, where they shared something of a viral moment. The spot in question drew much attention online and from some unexpected places. The two would once again make magic this past weekend at the Money in the Bank ladder match at the Money in the Bank event, this time with a spot that saw Ricochet hitting Paul with a Spanish fly through two tables set up at ringside. Though both men were unsuccessful in winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, their spat carried on backstage in clips that aired during Monday's edition of Raw. So next week, looks like we're going to be getting Logan Paul and Ricochet face to face. But it's not the only thing that has been announced for next week as well, because Matt Riddle's problems with Imperium continued Monday night on Raw, despite his victory over Giovanni Vinci, but he'll no longer have to face them alone. Drew McIntyre returned to WWE TV at Money in the Bank this past Saturday, and on Monday he came to Riddle's aid as he was getting beaten down by Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser. The two caught up backstage, with the original Bro asking for McIntyre's help with Imperium next week, and his request was swiftly hopefully accepted, though it wasn't made clear which members of Imperium would be taking part. However, that's not the only match already scheduled for next week. Becky Lynch, as I mentioned, after challenging both Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark to a match on Monday night, will have to settle for the latter next week. Meanwhile, The Miz will take on Tommaso Ciampa in a no disqualification match. Ciampa returned 2 weeks ago on Raw and defeated The Miz, but the A-lister got his revenge following the following week by brutally laying him out. Following a couple of passionate promos on this week's Raw, the match is set, and as I mentioned, we'll also be getting Logan Paul and Ricochet face to face too. So certainly a busy week next week on Monday Night Raw as we get closer to SummerSlam. Maxine Dupree has finally made her in-ring debut. WWE has been teasing the in-ring debut of Maxine Dupree for weeks, and on Monday night it finally happened when the Alpha Academy, along with Dupree, took on the Viking Raiders and Valhalla in a 6-person tag team match. In the closing stages of the matchup, Chad Gable made the hot tag to Dupree as Ivar tagged in Valhalla, and we were off. She managed to get in a couple of arm drags before hitting a Gable-inspired vertical suplex, much to the delight of the crowd in Baltimore, Maryland, while Dupree wasn't able to complete her attempt at the worm when Otis signaled for one, or the caterpillar as he would do it. Valhalla's offense was short-lived. After being backed into a corner, she managed to counter one last Valhalla attack with a quick-thinking roll-up, picking up the victory in the process. Dupree joined Alpha Academy on a May episode of Raw, leaving her former clients, the Maximum Male Models, in the dust. In the week since then, she's been training with Gable and Otis in preparation for her in-ring debut, and on Monday night, it couldn't have gone any better. What did you think of Maxine Dupree's in-ring debut? Finally, we have number one contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championships in Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. Saturday at Money in the Bank, new Women's Tag Team Champions were crowned when Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan won back the titles they never lost from Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. And on Raw, new number one contenders emerged in the form of Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. Monday night brought us a little tag team turmoil with Deville and Green taking on 4 other teams, Indy Hartwell in a very, very, very brief main roster debut, and Candice LeRae, Tegan Nox and Dana Brooke, Emma and Nikki Cross, and Kaden Carter and Katana Chance to earn their shot at the champions. Similar to Pretty Deadly a few weeks back on SmackDown, Deville and Green emerged victorious, and like those two though, they ran the gauntlet from start to finish, knocking off all 4 teams with a few shenanigans en route to a championship opportunity. Even sweeter, they were able to get revenge on Carter and Chance, who defeated the difficult duo 2 weeks ago on Raw. Following their impressive victory, Deville and Green were met with in the middle of the ring by the tag team champions Rodriguez and Morgan, only to back away and wave goodbye in return. There is no date right now on when we're going to be getting this tag team title match, so we'll have to wait and see when we get it. Of course, once we know, we'll let you know. But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.